Is 2021 finally the year the Georgia Bulldogs win the national championship? Well, the schedule came out yesterday, and if you're like me, you've probably broken it down 100 different times, and you've probably come up with the same conclusion that I have. And that's if Georgia beats Clemson the season opener, they're running the table. They are not losing another regular season game if they win the opener against Clemson week 1. I'm about to break down the schedule right now, and it shapes up really nice for Georgia to have a special season. So let's get into it. Week 1, obviously, against Clemson in Charlotte. Look, this is year 6 of the Kirby Smart era. I think if I asked every Georgia fan across the world 6 years ago, hey, where would the Georgia program be year 6? They'd probably say, at least at Clemson's level, but probably better than Clemson and higher than where they are right now, and that says a lot. But we're in year 6. I know a lot of people thought Georgia would have a national championship by now. They could do it this year, but they've got to get past Clemson and Alabama at some point. This is a great opportunity for them to beat Clemson on a national stage, top 3 opponent. They don't have Trevor Lawrence. They don't have Travis Etienne. They don't have Amari Rodgers. I believe Mike Jones, starting linebackers in the portal. They are not as good as they were last year. This is the opportunity for Georgia to beat Clemson and take the next step, prove that they are a top 3 program, again, just like they were a few years ago. Georgia can absolutely win this game. They need to win this game, but it's not the end of the world if they don't win this game. They could lose this game, win the rest of the regular season, and find a way to beat probably Alabama in the SEC title game, and they're in the playoff. So it's not like they lose this game to Clemson and the season's over. There's no room for another loss, but the season is still there. It's probably bigger for Georgia than Clemson. Clemson can lose this game to Georgia. They run the table against an easier schedule than Georgia's is, and they're still in. So it's not the end of the world, but Georgia needs to win this game from a national perspective. It's time. There's no doubt about it. This is time. So if they can beat Clemson, they're one of the top teams in the country. We think they are already. But if they can beat the Tigers in Charlotte, I don't see another team on the regular schedule that can beat them. So that's September 4th. September 11th at UAB at home. That's a win. September 18th, South Carolina. That's a win. The Gamecocks should be 2-0 coming into Athens. That's if they lose to East Carolina, who went 3-6 last year. I guess that's possible. So they could be 1-1. I'm assuming they're 2-0. Listen, Shane Beamer coached under Kirby Smart not too long ago, just a few years ago at Georgia. So I wouldn't say he's off the Kirby Smart tree, but he's off a branch. He's off a limb. The last thing Kirby Smart wants to do in the next decade or however long it takes is to lose to Shane Beamer and the South Carolina Gamecocks. That can't happen again. Georgia shouldn't be losing to South Carolina for the foreseeable future. They did a couple years ago, one of the more inexplicable losses that I've seen, especially covering the team. That's not going to happen again. It won't happen again. Kirby Smart is not going to lose to Shane Beamer. He's got problems if he does. So Georgia's going to be 3-0. They go at Vandy September 25th. Vandy's probably 1-2 at this point. Easy victory. Arkansas comes to town on October 2nd. Gave Georgia a little bit of trouble in the season opener in 2020 with Stetson Bennett and, DeJuan Mathis started that game. Wow. I got to forget about that one. But Georgia should be just fine here. Should have no problem at all with Arkansas coming to town. They're probably 2-2 at that point. Georgia should easily take care of business. October 9th at Auburn. Georgia should absolutely win this game. We know Bo Nix can't beat Georgia. He just can't do it. New coach, new scheme, probably the same quarterback. They're not beating Georgia, even on the Plains. But I will say this, Auburn could be 4-1 or 5-0 depending on if they beat LSU or not. So they could be ranked. There's absolutely a chance they could be top 20. I think top 15 is a little too high. But if they're 5-0, who knows? But they've got a very easy schedule in the very beginning. So this is going to be a ranked matchup on the road for Georgia. If they beat Auburn convincingly, this is going to look very, very good for them at that time in the season. So if you're Georgia, you kind of want Auburn to be 5-0 because they're going to lose a few games at the end of the year because after Georgia, they get hit pretty hard with the schedule. So this is probably the highest rank they're going to be all season when they play Georgia. It will be a nice looking win if Georgia takes care of them convincingly like they should. Auburn's not going to be very good. And again, they just can't beat Georgia right now as a program. That's a hump they can't get over. So Georgia should take care of business there, and it should be a ranked win. October 16th, Kentucky. They're going to be a bruised team. They're going to have at least 3 losses coming to town. It's, I believe it is in Athens. Georgia should absolutely take care of business. I'm not sure Kentucky wants to play this game. They have a tough schedule in the beginning. They're going to come in not wanting to play a physical team like Georgia. That one should not be close. Then they get their off week, a couple weeks to prepare for the Gators on October 30th. Now, Florida could be 6-1 or 5-2 depending on the LSU game 2 weeks prior. Again, if you're Georgia, you kind of want Florida to be clicking on all cylinders. They play Alabama week 3. That's going to be a loss. If they lose to LSU 2 weeks before Georgia's got the East wrapped up already before they play Florida. Florida might have 2 conference losses coming into Jacksonville, and Georgia's just, rolling right along. Again, the East could be up right then, but you still want to beat Florida, obviously, biggest game of the year, biggest rivalry game. And if they're 6-1, if they beat LSU, they're a top 15 team, maybe sneaking up there in the top 10, depending on how everyone else is doing in the country. So this is going to be a big matchup again, top 15 at least, maybe top 10. Georgia needs to take care of business in a big way and have a convincing win over the Gators. They're going to take a step back. They're losing so much. Obviously, Kyle Trask, Kyle Pitts, so on and so on. The defense is terrible. They have to take a step forward on defense as bad as they were last year. They're going to take a big step backwards on offense. Do they go with Emory Jones? If they do, then they definitely have 2 losses going into the Georgia game. I don't know if they can beat LSU with Emory Jones. Maybe they start the younger kid, Richardson, who I like a lot. I think the staff does there too. But Georgia should win this game, especially after what happened last year. Florida's going to take a step back. Georgia should be taking a step forward. Georgia should win this game and keep moving right along. Then you have Missouri, November 7th. This, I guess, is your trap game. This is a game that could sneak up on Georgia. Now, it's at home. It's in Athens, so that's going to help. But Missouri is probably 7-1 or 6-2 at this point. Their toughest games are at the end of the year, too, so they're kind of rolling right along until the Georgia game. Georgia needs them to be a top 20 team. Maybe they're in the top 15 at this point. I think they're going to be a better team than they were last year, and I think they could be one of the top teams in the East this year. Coming off, if you beat Florida, you're looking really, really good if you're Georgia. Then you have Missouri at home. You can't overlook them. This would be the only game where I think if Georgia doesn't come to play, give it 100%, they might get bit in the butt there. But they should take care of business. Missouri is not better than Georgia. It's in Athens. Georgia, I think, is probably looking at like one of the best teams in the country right now. They're going to look to prove it. They should take care of business there. At Tennessee, November 13th, going to be a little cold game up in Knoxville. Tennessee's not going to want to play this game. They're sitting at 5 or 6 losses at this point. It's really, really bad. At this point in the season, they're looking for the season to be over. I think Georgia's going to go up there and absolutely pummel them. Tennessee's going to be pretty bad for a while. I think we all know that. I think that's a fair statement. I'm not saying that just because I cover Georgia, and it's funny that Tennessee is so bad and dysfunctional, but Georgia's going to absolutely roll them. I don't think that one should be particularly close. Charleston Southern comes to Athens November 20th. That's going to be a butt kicking. And then Georgia goes to Atlanta to play the Yellow Jackets. That's another home game for Georgia. I've covered this game in the last 2 years in Atlanta. And it's a home game for Georgia. There are more Georgia fans there than Tech fans there the last 2 times, and it wasn't even close. So if you have a Tech buddy, I'm sorry, but please remind them that when Georgia plays Tech in Atlanta, it's still a home game for Georgia. That will trigger them beyond belief. But it's another home game for Georgia. Again, they're only true road games. Clemson's in Charlotte. That's not an away game. At Vandy, you're going to have more Georgia fans there than Vanderbilt fans. That's how it is every 2 years. So that's going to be a more Georgia crowd. At Auburn, true road game. At Tennessee, I guess true road game. But at Georgia Tech is going to have more Georgia fans. At Vanderbilt, it's going to have more Georgia fans. Charlotte against Clemson is going to be 50-50. Georgia has 2 true road games. It sets up perfect for them. This is the year. Okay, I'm going to say it right now. Y'all probably are saying the same thing. I know a lot of y'all watch these videos have said this years ago. This is the year Georgia has to take the next step. Again, if they beat Clemson, they should be running the table. There's no excuse for them not to. They absolutely should be able to pull that off. And then you've got Alabama, probably Alabama in the SEC title game. So this is exactly what you're looking for. The talent is there. We talked about the players on and on. If you've been watching these videos, you know the strengths and weaknesses of this team by now. Now they have the schedule. That sets up almost perfect. This is the year. This is the year. This is the year. Now, if Georgia loses to Clemson, again, they still run the table. They're going to have to beat Alabama to get into the playoffs. But if they beat Clemson and their only losses to probably, again, Alabama in the SEC title game, they're going to need Missouri to be better than they were last year in a top 25 team so they can have that a solid win. They're going to need Auburn to be in the top 15 when they play. That'll be a solid win. Clemson will be a top 3 win. And the Gators probably top 15, maybe a top 10 win. So at the end of the regular season, they might have a few solid top 15 wins, and they're going to need those if they lose a heartbreaker against Alabama, who knows how good they'll be again. They might be right there again playing for a national title. Close loss to Alabama in the SEC title game would not be ideal because, again, Georgia's going to have to beat them eventually. But it might be enough, depending on how everyone else is doing in the country, that they might be able to sneak into the playoff. But who knows? There might be an 8-team playoff at this point. And if that's the case, you have to really, really like Georgia's chances of making a national title run. So that's how I see it. Appreciate you all watching this video. Again, make sure to stay tuned to the next video coming up right now, and I will see you over on the website.